Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
I am still getting dogs out, and I should probably tell more stories about that, but I never really do like talking about my dogs for some reason. Like, everybody did good. They're getting old, and I need to. Like, we ended up catching one Sunday. I was pretty proud of them. They had to work pretty hard to get it going and jump, and that was good. And I probably should talk a little more about my dogs a little bit, but I don't like.
I kind of have a dream that with them getting older is fleeting, but I kind of had a dream of getting a cat slam over them.
Yeah, better hurry up.
I feel like we got the hard one out of the way.
Yeah, you got the lynx, and you gotta hit up Oregon for bobcat. We can go out.
Yeah,
go
take some photos and stuff.
Yeah. Bobcat we can do, and then we got to try and figure out where to do a lion. Like, that's the hard thing. There's a lot of lions are more difficult, at least for me, because
regulation. You
got to figure out where, and I'm not big on, like, there's a lot of, I don't want to say drama, but which states, out of state, like showing up to these different states, maybe draw on a tag, and then who can go and what dogs and blah blah blah. You could get the Idaho tag, but I'm not allowed to go with my dogs with you. So it's just like there's just a lot of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, gotcha. It's just a lot of. There's a lot of loopholes, not loopholes, but legal things you have to jump through, and so figuring out what state to do it, and then what state has good lions, and I'm not really interested in going to go shoot a small lion, or like if I want to go and we're going to shoot one, I'm like, I want it to be the right lion to shoot.
Yeah,
I'm a little picky.
So with these changes with in Washington with the new governor and the new committee and everything, like the new appointments that he made, do you think that there might be some changes as far as lion hunting there in Washington?
The short answer, no. So there's some really good news coming out of Washington. This new governor, Bob Ferguson, which he's not great. We'll see. He's going to sign these gun bills that probably they just pass the House and Senate, where we're going to have to get a permit to buy a gun. It's going to be stupid.
Oh, no.
Like we're getting hammered on the gun stuff right now. But on the wildlife stuff, so Governor Inslee, who's been our dictator for I don't know how long, but
it's about right.
Long, and he, like, the last day of his tenure as a governor, he threw in two anti-hunting, total activist commissioners, wildlife commissioners. And so it was looking bad. It was like, oh crap, we're in deep trouble. And anyways, when that happened, it was like, this is not good. Well, Bob Ferguson came in. He's the new governor that was elected. And I think the commercial fishermen, I think the natives, Indians, have been working on him, and he rescinded those two appointments. He basically said, which is the right thing to do, right? You're the governor that just stepping away. You don't get to just plant your little seeds and be like, yep, here's my minions or whatever. Mm-hmm. So dude, wait a day and let the new governor fill his seats. That's how it's supposed to go. So Ferguson pretty much recalled those two appointments and said, nope, those are my seats to fill, pull them out. And so those two, which were pretty egregious, activist, you know what I mean? It's so we have two activists on there now, which I would define as activists. there's a few more, but there's two that are the major ones. And those two would have made 4. And that was, plus you have some that may not be activists, but they definitely lean more on the activist side. And so it was just going to be like 5-2. You know what I mean? It was going to be and out of our favor. You know what I mean? Not in our favor. And so I think with the ones that we've seen, which Molly Linfield and I can't think of the other guy's name. Those have been very good middle of the, you know what I mean? Like they're not activists on our side. You know what I mean? Like I would probably like more aggressive, but Molly Linfield's been excellent at looking at the situation, looking at the data and making a sound decision based on the data. It means I may not agree with everything she says, which is the way it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? It's like, well, so with those two, I feel really comfortable. It's like, okay, the commission is leveling out where it was really tipped in one way. It was tipped against us. We lost our spring bear. We were getting changes made to cougar management policies. The biggest one was they were counting depredations. So it's a mess. And I don't want to get into Washington politics of it, but Washington politics of cougars is pretty rough. The cougar biologists, they have their density, which I think they underestimate density. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that they I think is wrong. I think Rich and some of those biologists out of Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, they're given 2.2 cougar density per 100 square kilometers, blah, blah, blah. And they say that's what it is. Well, then they set this 16% harvest limit on that number of cougars that they estimate for the state. And so for simplicity of math, let's just say there's 100 cougars, right? So 2.2 and whatever that is, that's 100 cougars in the state of Washington. There's more, there's thousands, but just for math, because it's easy for everybody to work off of a percentage off of 100, they say, okay, well, we can harvest 16%. So 16 cougars is a safe harvest number, out of that 100, and the population will be just fine, right? I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think you got to break down male, female, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's just that easy. It's not like deer, where you're just shooting bucks. If you over harvest, you shoot all females, that's a different thing than shooting all, 16 males. You know what I mean? Harvesting 16 males is different on the biological spectrum than shooting, harvesting 16 females. So like at the ground, I think their data is not scientifically sound, but it is what it is, and they're locked into it. So essentially what they've done is they said, okay, well, 16% is what we can do. And generally we see, they would say a 40% female harvest, whatever. It's wrong. It's probably 60% female harvest, but like it is what it is. They changed the other things that count against that would be depredation. So if there's a cougar that's depredating on a farm field and they decide to, lethally remove it, now that gets counted against the quota, or the closure. It's not a quota, but it's a closure. And they have these PMUs, which is, area management, cougar area management units, which they break down into small sections. So like there's one for battleground, there's one for this area, all these, it's like, 2 cougars in the battleground area. And so they make this big old convoluted mess that looks scientific and looks big because it's complicated. And it's like, dude, you don't even know, like, you don't know what's out there. You don't know what cougars are out there. You've never done no density studies, and they're making all these assumptions. And so at the end of the day, here's what I tell people is I say, okay, let's just assume there's not 100 cats out there. Just for the sake of math, let's assume your density numbers, because you're estimating it from 20-year-old data. Let's assume it's 4.0. It's almost double. So for the sake of math, let's just just hear me out, because Montana has like a 4.4 density. It's almost double what Washington has, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Utah, like you can look at these other different states and see densities that are higher than 2.2. So it's not inconceivable that we could have a higher density in Washington. You know what I mean? Let's just make that case. So let's just assume that our density is the same as what it is in Montana, 4 point something. So you're two times off, right? So instead of 100 cougars on the landscape, there's actually 200 cougars on the landscape, right? So now we harvest 16%, 16 cougars. 16 cougars out of 200 is 8%. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So your magic number is a 2.2 to calculate your density, and you set all these magic numbers on 20-year-old data that says this is how many cougars there is and this is how many. If you erase the male and female, harvest, which changes it, and you just go straight numbers, and you say to 16%, well, you actually harvest 8%, and you shut down cougars. You shut down cougar hunting. So instead of managing a stable population, you potentially could be managing for a growing population, right? Mm-hmm. And so now, because you only harvest 8% instead of the 16% that you were targeting, maybe it increases. Maybe there's more, disease. You know what I mean? Maybe there's more conflict. I don't know what maybe there more is, but let's say the population can go up. Well, now there's 300 cougars out there. You're harvesting your 16%, or 16, not 16%. Well, now you're harvesting what? 6% of it. You know what I mean? Like, by this assumption that Washington makes, the math could go awry. And it boggles my head. So anyways, that was a little rat
No,
hole.
that's good.
But with that said, these new commissioners, and that was the direction that we were going with the old commissioners, the advocate commissioners, is they're playing games with the math, and it's hard to argue these things. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to sit there and pencil out why this isn't working out, or this may not work out, to a biologist. It's like, oh, well, I'm just telling you, if you listen to Rich, I've been doing cougar studies for so long, and 2.2, and we're at that mountain lion workshop, and Rich is up there from my state, and he's giving the presentation, and he's telling all of the other state associations, all the other states, why they're wrong and why they need to sharpen their pencils, why he's right. And I'm like, I'm just looking like, yeah, totally, he's that guy. And I'm in the room like, I wish I wasn't from Washington right now. Like, please, and I can see these other biologists, other state biologists that I'm not going to name. I can see them roll their eyes, basically. I can see them look at my biologist and go, yeah, keep preaching. You know what I mean? Like, he is so full of himself that his data is right. And his data is, I'm looking at guys that are doing density studies in Montana who are actively doing density studies in the last couple of years with houndsmen, and trying to get data like last year's density data. And my guy from Washington is putting up like 20-year-old slides from from data from 20 years ago. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't build credibility. Let's go do some density studies now. Let's go see what's out there right now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, and this is the other thing, like deer hunters and elk hunters, you look at like Utah and everybody's like, oh, there's a lion behind every tree. And it's like, no, that's not the case either. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not as populated as some of the deer and elk hunters would have you believe either. You know what I mean? Like, there's a fine balance between, okay, what's the real numbers? And I don't know what the real numbers are, but I'd just like to go find out. I'd like to go catch cougars and DNA, maybe a DNA dart study of some sort that we can try and figure out a density. So anyways, you got me on another rat hole, man.
Hey, rat holes are good.
So that is where Washington is. It has been very pleasantly surprising what our new governor did for our commission. So like, I want to make no bones about it that I am very hopeful that that continues and we get back to sound decisions out of our commission. But when you asked, are we going to see changes? I'm a pessimist about that. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's some groups that are doing some really good things, like what is it, the Washington Coalition? There's some Facebook group that those guys have been really active, and they have been showing up to commission meetings at the point when I'm like, it's a waste. You know what I mean? I'm thinking like, man, those guys already got their mind made up, and I'll send my letter out, but I'm like, dude, I'm not driving halfway across the state for 2 minutes to give lip service to somebody who already is, I know their decision.
Yeah.
And these guys have, and I'm really grateful for that, because we need more guys like that. Those new energetic people to, you probably have been working with some of them, I'm sure. I think I've seen some of your stuff. So that's great. Like, I'm just that old guy that's just like cynical on the corner. You know what I mean? I was like doing this for 20 years. And I'm like, when I can see a path forward, I'll get excited. And there's no path that I see yet, but I do see that, they at least didn't tank trap the road. You know what I mean? Like the road was getting tank trapped with the commissioners we had before. And it was like, okay, there's not only is there no path, it's like the path is gone. You know what I mean? So we can't even, so now it's like, okay, we can maybe work on making a path. And I don't know what that looks like, but, yeah. So for bears, I don't follow bears enough to know if we could get a spring. And the truth is if there's not my dogs involved, I don't really care.
Yeah. I hear you.
Like everybody, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they had this big push about giving a 2 cougar limit, for Washington, where it's like, oh, we need to, we could have a 2 cougar limit. And I'm like, yeah, for what? Like, no, there's probably, I can count on one hand how many people could effectively go harvest 2 cougars without dogs, with using calls or however they want to, spot and stalk. I'm like, dude, that is not going to make a difference in harvest. And they were trying to tout how it could increase harvest, because, well, if we allow 2 cougars, then more cougars will get harvested. And it's like, no, they're not. The cougars right now are getting harvested because people are out deer and elk hunting, and they happen to have one cross the road in front of them. Like, that's it. And whether it's a male, it's a female, whatever it is, that deer elk hunter is going to smoke it. Yeah. If they can shoot. And they're going to get what they're going to get. And most of it's probably adolescent, young cougars, and it is what it is. And so I don't get excited about that. You know what I mean? I'm like, if you want to talk about cougar management and start talking about male versus female harvest and having a quota like they used to, where it's like, okay, you can have this many cougars, so many can be female, so many can be male, and we can use dogs to get into that precise and that precision. I'm all for it. That's when I'll get excited. But right now, it's just deer and elk hunters that have an incidental harvest. The cat walks out in front of them and they shoot it, and they don't care what it is. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah, it's the same thing with bears too.
Yep.
In these places where there's dense canopy cover.
Yeah. They, I think you can target bears a little bit more if you wanted, like during certain seasons, and, they come out and feed in the grass and stuff like that.
Yeah. In the spring.
Yeah. I don't know. In the fall, I guess it's probably a lot more incidental.
Yeah. Or hunting berries. I mean, like, you guys typically, your fall season would be around that August timeline. Our fall season is mid-September, and then early October. And you
came out here did a bear hunt, right?
Yeah, I think that was like around that July, August timeline years ago.
Yeah,
It
Southern
was me
Oregon.
and Clay.
No, yeah, you came up
It was,
to my place at one time, but
yeah.
you
It
were
was
last year or something for Oregon.
Yeah, last year I went to Southern Oregon. Yeah, it was like beginning of August, I think. Oh, last year I did a spring hunt there too. I've been to Oregon twice in the last year and a half, I think, on bear hunts, and man, I love that Southern Oregon area.
Yeah,
That coastal area is beautiful. But I'll tell you, like I did come out and hunt there in Washington. Like when me and Clay came out, that's the only bear hunt or backcountry style hunt that I've ever gained weight on because the berries were out so much. We weren't even drinking. We were just eating handful after handful of berries.
Yeah, huckleberries. I was eating them things when I went up there and seen you guys. I've never been up that high. I don't like going up that high. You guys, I was like, oh, me and Bradley hiked up there to go hang out with you guys. But yeah, those huckleberries.
It was a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what'll happen. Like I said, the question is, I don't have an inside pulse on the spring bear hunt to see if there's even a chance of getting a spring bear hunt back. Yeah. I would guess that the answer is probably not. And the reason I would guess that it's probably not is I think that commission's going to lay low. You know what I mean? Like there's been so much drama and so much hyper politicization around that Fish and Wildlife Commission. They have this Ruckle House report that they did, which essentially, I don't know how much you know, but the antis in a Senate bill one time approved the Senate budget. And I hope I'm not messing this up. Like I was listening to another podcast the other day and I was like, wow, they're saying a bunch of wrong stuff. So I hope I'm not that guy one time that is like saying all this wrong stuff. But as I remember, or I recall in my reading, the Senate was passing a budgetary bill and the Democrats tagged in an approval, and maybe it was Republicans, I don't know, but one of them tagged in a approval on the budgetary that they would hire an outside agency to do a analysis or an inspection of the commission, essentially, right? And so out of this budgetary, they allocated some funds, and I don't remember what school was supposed to do it or what, it was probably some university or something. That was supposed to create a report about the Wildlife Commission of some sort. So, and the root of it was from the anti-hunters or advocacy groups, right? Basically, they wanted to say that Fish and Wildlife was I don't know the right words, but not healthy. And then they wanted the governor to get rid of the commission and the governor to appoint their board so that the Fish and Wildlife would be done by the governor's office instead of a commission. So that was their agenda. So what happened was that Ruckle House report came back, and essentially, like we were all saying, was the Fish and Wildlife Commission is in disarray. So our Fish and Wildlife Commission, Fish and Wildlife Agency is in a damaging disarray, and there's no trust with the public. There's no trust internally, externally. All the key players are not trusting each other. Nobody's getting along. There's just a lot of conflict, which we all knew. And so they had three proposals. One was essentially what the antis wanted, which was kill the commission and have it appointed by the governor. One of the solutions was do nothing, just as is in a status quo. And the other was for the commission to be I'm paraphrasing, but essentially needs to go through a house cleaning process and do some house cleaning and stop being activist. You know what I mean? It's like start doing what the commission's supposed to do. And so with that Ruckle House report, we were all kind of nervous about like what's going to happen. I mean, are they going to, if we go to the governor, who knows what's going to happen? And so anyways, I think that was some of the decision making behind this new governor deciding, which is like, hey, he had the commercial fishing, he had the Native Americans, he had the hunting community. I mean, there was just a ton of political pressure, and even the antis were pushing him hard to appoint and get rid of the commission. So they were pushing for their agenda. Everybody else was saying, hey, slow the ship down, right the ship. The commissions work good forever. They're destroying this, fish and wildlife. They're destroying credibility, left and right. And so that's what we're seeing shape up now. Like we're seeing the ship at least show signs of trying to right itself. And that's where Washington is. So long story short, I'm hopeful, but do I expect next commission meeting we're going to watch people start dropping bear seasons and cougars? You know what I mean? Like, I think we're a couple years away from it. And I don't I'm trying to think. So the spring bear hunt is probably going to get brought up as a petition. You know what I mean? Like I have no doubts that these guys are going to file a petition for the spring bear hunt. And if I had to analyze that opportunity and go, yeah, there's a if you could show the damage, I think there's a chance of getting it back. But it's going to be, timber companies, bear peelings, the bear damage that drive that. And I don't know if that's a strong enough argument right now. So I don't know, but your bear guys will probably know more than I do.
I think that'll be the first domino if we do start seeing some advance, would be that spring bear season.
But I just don't know I don't know what the argument for it is. You know what I mean? Like I know. See, the argument's got to be like, well, we lost the opportunity, we had opportunity, and we lost the opportunity. You know what I mean? Like that's the which to me is a valid argument. You know what I mean? Like I sound like I'm Debbie Downer, right? Because I'm like, blah, blah. Like, okay, if I'm writing the check, I'm like, yep, that sounds good. Let's do it. You know what I mean? We start we start tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like I'm cool with that. Like that's a sound enough argument for me, right? The question is that a sound enough argument for commissioners that have just gone through an absolute shitstorm over the last 4 years of advocacy and fighting and bickering and political talk and spring bear hunt and you know what I mean? Like all these really high combative targets, if you will, that this commission has been battling for. And are they going to want to pick up that stone and go, oh yeah, let's talk about that some more? Like, I don't think so. I think they're going to be like, let's not talk about bears and cougars for a little bit. Let's talk about other stuff and get our books in order. Right. Yeah. So, and that's just my personal opinion. I got nothing, nothing to go off on that. Just human interaction that I feel like behind the scenes, if you were to talk to these commissioners, they're going to be like, are they excited about talking about spring bear hunt? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like, probably not. So what's going to get them excited to talk about a really controversial topic? I don't know. Yeah.
I think it depends what their drivers are. Really, if you look at it from a conservation standpoint, you'd have to look at harvest numbers and what it was like. The good thing is you'll have data from previous seasons when there was a recent spring bear hunt versus like fall. And if I remember right, Washington has a two bear limit in the fall. Yeah. So that would tell me that they're not hitting their goals for how many bears that they want to take or see harvested from a biological standpoint. And so I think it just depends on on what the drivers are for these new commissioners. I think a spring bear hunt from a conservation standpoint would be a easy sell. It just depends on
Why
what
do you say
voices
that?
are out there.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
I think it's an easy sell if you're looking at it from a conservation standpoint of, it's like you already have a 2-bear limit for the fall.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a 2-bear limit for the fall, it means that you're not taking the amount of bears.
But we've had a 2-bear limit since dogs have been eliminated.
Yeah.
Like we you know what I mean? Like and so again, and this goes to like, I'm going to sound like, like people aren't going to like what I have to say, but strategically, I look at that and I go, okay, what is the pushing argument? So you got to get like the bear specialist, who I just told you, I'm pretty sure is the same guy.
Is he the large carnivore biologist in general?
He's the bear and cougar. He's the bear and cougar specialist.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I have not seen, and maybe I should educate myself and look at his thing. But you have what you would need staff, so that would be him and his division or whatever, his guys. Mm-hmm. They would have to give a recommendation to say, hey, we're not harvesting enough bears, and we need a spring season. I don't know that you could get that group to say that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the first step is, can you get a staff recommendation for spring bear? And maybe you can. Like, I don't think he's going to talk to me. He's not going to like me. I can tell you that I did get a talk with him, and we made nice and I won't say we made nice, but we had a friendly conversation. I was anxious because I talk shit about him all the time. I really don't like his data. Like, it's not so much him, but I've I just don't like what I've seen. I'm like, man, I got questions, and he is, I would say, arrogant, and so he is like, his data's right, blah blah, and so we just butt heads on that, on that methodology. So I don't know on bears where he stands, and to be fair, staff could come out and say, hey, we're not harvesting enough bears. And I think they might have done a recommendation back when they were trying to take it away. Staff might have recommended to keep the spring bear season. I think they did, actually. In fairness, I think they did. So if staff would recommend going back to a spring bear, that's the first step. I have my reservations that they would, but I'd love to be wrong. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, and it's good to have a spring bear season too for getting in front of the fawn and calving season. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's good. Like I said, you're selling me, but
Washington State Black.
We've got to sell. We've got to see if staff will bring that up as a recommendation in the season settings. And I think they just gone through their 3-year season settings, and so it's probably going to be 3 years before they even look at it. My guess. You know what I mean? Like, unless here's what's going to happen. I mean, I'll say here's what's going to happen. Here's what I assume is going to happen. One of these guys will file a petition to the commission to resume a spring bear season, right? And my guess is that the commission will reject the petition because they don't want to deal with the drama right now. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a big push to get spring bear back, and behind the scenes is greased up already. I mean, you're not going to do it without the work. You know what I'm saying, Kolby? Like, you have to. You don't just show up at the commission and your 2-minute speech is what makes the decision. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not how it works. You don't send a petition and be like, okay, and then you show up there for your 2 minutes and you tell them why spring bears is a good thing, and the commissioners go, oh, okay, let's do that, and they slam that. That's not how it works. You're gonna have to work with, Fish and Wildlife, and like the cougar and bear specialist You're going to have to get the biologist to go, hey, is it sustainable? They're going to do a CR 101, a CR 102, and it's just going to go through this whole process. So is it possible? Yes, but there's a lot of legwork that's got to be done. And if that legwork is not being done behind the scenes right now, I think it's not going to happen for a little while.
Yeah. Do you know when the last game management plan they came out with was?
They're going to vote on it now.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I know California just came out with their black bear management plan last week. And they originally they were estimating there'd be 30,000 bears, and now they're estimating there being 60,000 bears. So I mean, that population just keeps on growing like crazy.
Yeah, no, I don't know they did the cougar. I think they opened up the bear management plan some on the spring bear deal. So that whenever we lost spring bear was the last one. And then they work on their season settings every 3 years. So I think that's what we're in the process of now is every 3 years our season setting. So they're setting our seasons, and then they just have to approve the special hunts every year. So we're waiting for our special hunts to get approved.
Yeah.
The bear management plan, I don't know if they revisit that. Again, I just don't think there's going to be a lot of willingness for the commission to jump into highly political topics. Yeah. They might. I could be wrong. Maybe they're ready, but they've been in it for so long that I can only imagine if I was a commissioner, I'd be like, really? We're going to do this again? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have public, and I say this because it's part of the process, public testimony, blah, blah. But that if you were the guy, if I would be a horrible commissioner, because I'd be like, dude, we're just going to sit here for, 5 hours and listen to people tell me the same thing over and over again. And then the anti is going to jump up and they're going to tell me the same thing. And we're just filling the room with public testimony. And that's not what they signed up to do. You know what I mean? They didn't sign up to be a commissioner to get bitched at by both sides and jump in this highly political charged, discussion.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, it's hard for me to keep up which states do what, but is it ballot box there in Washington, or is it commissioners making a decision? I think it's commissioners making a decision. But,
yeah, for the most part, commissioners making a decision. Yeah. It can be ballot box. We lost it through ballot. Mm. But these things, the spring bear, the cougar changes, which have been, I want to say somewhat subtle, but it only in the cougar deal, it only makes sense when you look at the math. You know what I mean? Like I explained, you know what I mean? If you look at the density and you underestimate the density and then you limit the harvest, you know what I mean? You are, in my head, you are under harvesting and trying to do a protectional growth style population model. Although you're saying you're not, because you say the data and the density. I'm like, yeah, if your numbers are wrong, then you're not managing properly. So with bear, it's a little different, but I don't know. So I don't know. It's all done by commission.
Yeah, I looked up their management plan on their website, and it looks like it hasn't been updated since December 2014, or at least this is all I can find. And it looks like the game management plan was supposed to run from 2015 to 21, and I guess they haven't came out with a new one.
Yeah, I think that's because of the commission. I think it's just been in complete disarray that some commissioners have been really trying to gut that and cement in the no spring bear. You know what I mean? They're trying to cement in these changes these pushes. And so it's been a full frontal attack. Like I'm not going to lie. And so there's still work to do, like I said, but I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. My 2 cents is some of these commissioners are going to be like, hey, let's step back. Let's take a breather. Let's reset, and let's start again. And I think they'll. And I just don't see them jumping into the highly political charged
topics first.
You know what I mean? Like I think they're going to try to do some house cleaning and try to build some rapport. I could be totally wrong. I could be 100% wrong. They could jump in next time and be like, "Oh, we're going to stay in this political fight."
If the governor's wanting to make a splash,
I don't. But see, that's not what I'm reading. I'm reading the governor is kind of given an olive branch. You know what I mean? So like that's just my feeling is this governor is like, hey, okay, give an olive branch. He's even on the taxes, he's pushed back on some taxes and stuff. Now, hopefully he doesn't do this with gun control. He rejects the gun control, but I don't think he will. Like I don't fully trust him. You know what I mean? There's issues that I'm like, God dang it. You know, like this governor, this thing, if he signs this gun control bill, like it's like, that's bad. But he pushed back on some taxes that got raised at the same time saying, hey, we're taxing too much, right? And this is from a Democrat. Like Inslee would have never done that. So I look at this commission you know what I mean? Like looking at it from your view way over there and just hyper focusing on bears, it's easy for you to go, oh, you know what I mean? Like some of these outside groups, if you don't look at the big picture, so whatever. So I'm looking at the big picture and going, this governor is kind of trying to like play nice, if that makes sense, right? On taxes, I don't think so on guns, but we'll find out, right? Rejecting these commissioners, doing these different things. And so I think that our side is going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to just go charge ahead and take the spear and overrun the antis and yeah, no, probably not. They're probably going to be like, hey, cool your jets, take some time. This is a win. We're going to stabilize things and then we'll revisit. So that's just my personal opinion on how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Everybody wants spring bear hunting, but I don't see the pendulum swinging that fast. You know what I mean? It's over here. So you got to remember, like, we damn near lost bear hunting. You know what I mean? Like, we almost didn't have bear hunting, period. They wanted to take everything or whatever. And is it going to swing back in a month, 2 months, in a year? Not that quick. Like, we might get some stuff back, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a ton of things on the back end, like you were saying, that need to get in order first.
Yeah.
Before they make any of these moves. But yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. It's definitely like the hot spot to kind of see what's going on, where the fights are typically up there in the Pacific Northwest and
tired of
up
it,
on
man.
the East
Tired
Coast.
of it.
Tired.
Yeah.
So at least it looks like maybe there's some wins coming ahead for bear hunting and bear hunting with hounds, maybe in Florida.
I'm interested to see. I haven't heard of the Florida stuff, but how California's bill does, the hazing bill. Like, so they're pushing that this week, I think.
Yeah, they came out with the management plan or the bear document or management plan this last week. It didn't specifically. It was kind of light compared to other management plans that I've seen. It wasn't really pushing one type of hunt over another or anything. It was kind of like, I don't know, nothing too exciting in it.
No, I'm talking about there's a cougar, I don't know what they call it, a hazing out of a county. So they're wanting to pass the ability to pursue cougars using dogs and trying to measure success, if that can be a positive aspect. And so I'm really curious to that. I
haven't heard that one.
I'm nervous. A couple things make me nervous about it. That we have to make sure that dealing with Bart's study and stuff and seeing some of that and looking at it from that standpoint, I'm like, man, we have to make sure that we can show if we do something, we can show the positive aspect of it. So meaning if you do a pursuit with hounds in that county, I think it's one county in California, what are the measured results you're expecting to see? If you were to say, oh, we're not going to see those in those areas, I think that's going to be a failure, right? I think you're still going to see cougars in the areas. I don't think hazing them or running or pursuing cougars with dogs makes the cougars move out of an area. I don't think it disrupts them that way. I do think it builds. Looking at Bart's data and Bart's study, I do see a strong correlation that it can build an adverse conditioning towards a dog and a human, meaning the cougar doesn't like hanging around people and dogs after being caught and released. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess the question I have is, and I haven't looked at the whole writing of the bill or whatever, is like, okay, what is the objective of success for that? If they have it right, where it's like, okay, it's a human safety issue where according to Bart's study, catching and releasing cougars makes them want to avoid humans. Perfect. Like that's a pretty sound argument. I think that will show, if you did some studies on it, like we did with Bart's, I think you could show that happening. If you're trying to say, hey, the cougar's not going to kill a sheep because you did it. I don't know. I think there's a potential for not as much success to be shown. You know what I mean? Like maybe it would work, you know what I mean? But I don't think cougars change areas without a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? I think you gotta apply a little more pressure and just catch and release. So we'll see.
Yeah, I would think so too.
But I want to see how that goes. I know those guys were pushing, and they had that. I don't know if it was a hearing this week or whatnot. It was last week or so. I had a couple of people email me about it, and like I said, it's politics is politics.
It's too bad we got to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's all about relationships. A lot of times, it's like, man, you gotta, and that was why I went to that New Mexico thing, is because it's like, man, we got to start building relationships ahead of time. I always, thought, man, it's one thing to ask somebody for when you first meet them and you need to ask them for a favor, right? It's like, hey, Kolby, man, can you do this for me? It's another thing that if you've known them for a year or two and you haven't asked for that favor, and then when you're like, hey, Kolby, by the way, can you do me a favor? You know what I mean? Like, we already have that relationship built. Somebody calls you out of the blue and is like, Kolby, I need you to plug me for this, or plug me for, got that magazine. I got this guide and outfitter, and you're like, sure, pay me. I'll do it. I'll trade you some money, and I'll put your ad in there. But if you had a friend that you've known for years and they were down on their luck and they're like, man, I'm just having a hard time, they could ask you for a favor and you'd be like, no problem. Let me try and see if I can put in a good word for you or whatever. So that's the way politics is it's better to know the people ahead of time when you don't need to ask them for the favor than to wait until you do need to ask them for the favor and then be like, coming with your hand out, give me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So like, that's the hardest part about politics, is you got to do that ahead of time and not expect asking for a favor, just, and I'm not good at it. I did it for a while. I was, talking to my reps and stuff like that. And now they've all changed, and I need to get with my new reps and make sure they know my name. And I haven't done it. This year I said I was going to do it, and I never did.
Yeah. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of time.
Yeah, it does. So Well, that's 2 hours, man.
I think we got 2 podcasts out of it.
Yeah, maybe we should do a part 1 and part 2. Well,
I think the last hour was talking about stuff in Washington.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, we can do that. Perfect. And I need to, like I say, if you're listening, call me, message me, email, give me some topics to talk about. We'll have to do this more often, Kolby.
Yeah, I'm for it. Cool.
Well, let's wrap this one up.
All right.